full 12 hours we've had. More to come. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn on your Wednesday. And today may prove to be, an unprecedented day. So, I'm not going to drag anything out too long. But as always, I want to thank you guys so much for choosing Black Spring with Autumn on your Wednesday. And I say that because you have choices out there. And also, it would be really helpful, as always, if you could help us out by feeding the AI. And you can do that either by hitting the like or the unlike button, daring to share it out, and also just making sure you're still subscribed to the channel. And I want to thank Derek C. Williams, one of our patrons, so much for indulging me on the share out. So thank you for throwing that caution to the wind on this Wednesday. I thank you so much for that. And of course, we'll be giving a word to our sponsors. Good morning, Steve Willis. How are you? Thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different today. And it's not, I don't intend for it to come off as a rant, but I'll get to that right after we give a word to our sponsors. So once again, I want to thank the loyal patrons, the subscribers, as well as the actual friends over on Periscope. And also I'm having to do rework some things on the actual Twitch account. So we'll be right back and we'll get started with, I'm going to do a little bit of something along the lines of a commentary, and I'll bring you right back right after this. All right. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So, of course, you've seen the thumbnail and you may have even seen some of the descriptions, because I will go ahead and tell you, for one, I don't always do descriptions. And I think that's a part of the AI as well. I try to keep as many buzzwords out of the situation as possible. And good morning to the definition of anarchy. Good morning to you. Thanks so much for coming in. So I just want to get to this right now. And all right, and it's going to be, I don't know, as I've had friends, friends in the past, I'm going to do this off the rip. Okay. So that's a little colloquialism, a little off the rip, off the hip, off the script. I'm sure you can pick up what that means. Now, of course, we've seen throughout, for years, but now I think it's more pertinent than ever that we've seen quite a bit of what I want to say. We've seen a bit of the entertainment industry, and especially athletes. The athlete section of this is what I'm on about right now. We've seen And when I'm talking specifically about Black athletes, so I have stripes in the house today. I just want to say to my stripes, and the stripes is code for the mods. You guys do what you need to do. I implore you to do whatever you need to do. You have the latitude to do what you need to do at any time on this channel. And so you know what that is. And for anybody that's new to the channel, reasonable rules of engagement are over on the community tab. So you might want to run over there. But my stripes are the best, so I'm not worried. So here we are. So we've seen these athletes, and I found I'm going to go ahead and get into this specifically. And I'm doing some thinking, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a tier of athletes and a tier of entertainers, and every now and then they pop out. And I found it was very apropos that LeBron James, and I typically don't go into these, I don't go into these little enclaves, but I'm going to. And so if you brought your heart and you brought your visions, you might want to bring something else to the party, because you might get in your feelings, as they say. So this is what I'm on about. Now, apparently, LeBron James it looks like he's engaged a little bit. It looks like he's got his own role. He's a part of the auxiliary and the technocrats, the technocracy. And it looks like he has engaged in, it looks like, because Loeffler has, I mean, I'm not going to say that the media has officially called this or even officiate the results of the Georgia Senate races, but it looks like he was already in the background, or kind of campaigning or raising money for the team, the WNBA, to vote for Warnock, raise funds, da 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 da. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, you're doing that, but then what's LeBron's role? What's his role in all of this, and why is this happening? Like, is he just really some big-hearted guy, and is he just what is the deal? Okay, so I'm asserting that he's a technocrat and he's guided by technocrats, and he is the blackface of the stakeholder capitalism. That's my argument. He is a stakeholder, the blackface of one of the black faces of stakeholder capitalism. Because of course we've talked about this before. We talked about the shift from shareholder capitalism to the stakeholder capitalism. So why not? So of course he's going to do all of this under the auspices of, oh, well, it's all about equality, and it's all about, women, but I'll get into more specifics on it later. But this is not the first time we've seen seen some intervention from an athlete, and it's just kind of random that it comes out. But I find that this was hitched. There was a political hitch to usher in a soft ushering in of the stakeholder capitalism. And LeBron James is the blackface of the stakeholder capitalism. And I'm saying this is all done under, I think there's a very specific article. I'm going to put it in. I'll share that with you. But I figured that that's his role. You'll see the Jay-Z's doing that kind of a bit. I'm not saying that you guys have been doing this, but it's just ironic. Like, okay, I do agree. And I learned this from Dr. Soul's book on intellectuals and the visionaries. And I find it interesting that most of these elite, they are more well known for for things that they're not really competent in. Not saying that they're totally incompetent, but they're more competent in something else. Something else brought them to the table, if you will. Some other notoriety or some other formidability brought them to the table in the first place. And usually it doesn't have anything to do with they'll be known for they'll end up being top most wealthy for some domain of competence that had nothing to do with what brought them to the table in the first place. So I'm saying he's king of basketball, but then he's just a savvy businessman, right? He's just stepping out, making all these brilliant decisions. And some people will say, oh, come on now, sis, come on. You mean you don't think that our brother is just an insightful businessman and and he's just making brilliant business decisions? And then I'm thinking to myself, well, but without bias, even in business, you have people that manage your accounts or they kind of guide you in your portfolio management. Um, I don't think that this man woke up one day just making brilliant decisions and making, shareholder and stakeholder positions. No, I'm not convinced of that. Am I saying he's absolutely unintelligible? No, I didn't say that either. But I'm saying without a framework, you don't just you have, I think there's some level of concept that's brought him to this table, brought him to the level of investment or interest in this investment. And I'm not why what else? You got, he's a vessel. He's a vessel for systemic Marxism. All of these things, he's just trying to help women and bring more to the table for the women, give the women a chance, with the WNBA, which when I look at it, some people might think, well, this may not be the best sound investment for him to make, but he's certainly a part of it, right? He's decided he can take some risk, right? You know, it won't hurt him. He's got enough, right? He's doing well enough. But it's just the erosion of shareholder capitalism is what I'm saying. That's my main shtick. But I'm saying the blackface on these things, the blackface that they shellac. I like that word, shellac, and you might hear me use it a lot. And I'm saying, and that's like coding or painting or whatever you want to call it. They like to shellac things with the blackface because they can sell. Because of course, if you're not under the awning of liberalism or something, you're going to be called a racist, right? So you got to go along with whatever it is. So I think he's doing this, in the name of Marxism. But what's the end game? The end game is still a sustainability goal. And the end game is also still wealth redistribution as well as stakeholder capitalism at the end of the day. As I'm just saying, that might be unremarkable to you, but that is my own assertion of it. But I do find the hypocrisy is there also. The hypocrisy is also in, Kelly Loeffler. She's got something. She's an owner in this situation, and she's got her own stake in this situation, and they want to bully her out. I mean, you're gonna go through you're gonna use a political defeat, and then you're gonna go for it. Take her little share out. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. But he's all about advancing women and equality and all these things. So that's where I get the hypocrisy comes in. But for those that are not really, they don't have any perspective, they have no historical perspective, or are not, choose to be uninformed. He'll be admired. He'll be admired in the community as, he's just, you guys are just hating on him because he's just trying to keep a brother down, and you're just trying to hate on him because he's a black man. Spare me is what I'm saying. I'm saying spare me. Okay. This is not the total, even the Twilight Zone materialized from something, from some concept or some person. Okay. So I find it interesting that he would be, hello. Let me just stop for a second and say hello to Angela Reed. And it's just kind of staggering to me to just find people they just keep making a mess, and they fall right back in it, and they go, oh my God, I'm still in the same place. Well, look at your approach. What is different about your approach? What are you drawing on? What are you drawing on? And then, okay, I'm gonna get to the imagery. Don't worry. I'm gonna get to the story that brought me to these thoughts. But I am just saying that generally they've used all these this Marxism. They've used all of the systemic Marxism. They've used all of the banner of, you got to demonize capitalism, but you got to, they need capitalism, but they got to demonize it long enough to get what they want. Okay. And of course, with the stakeholder capitalism versus the shareholder capitalism, it's going to be more about equality, right? It's going to be about equalizing and wealth redistribution. And it's going to be about, taking care of the environment. He's just all about, so, he's getting a one up on a whole lot of, he'll get credit for a lot of things, but I'm saying I assert my hypothesis is it's by design. It's not that he's waking up with these brilliant ideas. And I'm going to take you to the tweet. So not to worry. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I just want to give a warm hello to everybody in the chat. I know this is a busy day, and I know for those of you that are hitting the pavement or whatnot, either in DC or wherever you are, you're anxious to get back to those things. So I'll try to get you in and out, and hope you guys are doing well. Hello. We got lots of warm spirits in here. Hello to Melinda Ann Burns, AZ Infidel, Anarchy Television. Thank you so much for coming in. And Angela Reed, Steve Willis, thank you so much. And the definition of anarchy. Thank you so much for coming in. And Steve Willis again. Thank you guys so much. And thanks so much to Derek C. Williams for sharing this out today. So I know I've been a little bit, as they say, MIA for a few days, but yeah, I had some things going on, but I just had to get, kind of get some things together a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, so before I go on here, as I was saying, I think that the whole culture of the elite and the perks of the elite, somehow they just have some kind of anointing in which, they just end up being masters of the universe, no matter what they're competent in, what they're officially competent in. Like I'll tell you guys just, on another example, even as a teacher, sometimes you might get presented with an idea. Oh, you want to teach English? Oh, you want to teach math? Oh, you want to teach biology? Well, what does my certification say that I'm certified to teach? Do I believe? Do I think I have the aptitude, or do I think I'm competent enough to do these things? Probably. But is that what I've declared, or is that what you actually hired me to do? What does my certification say that I'm hired to do? I'm not. No, and eventually that would always translating into babysitting. We just need to fill up your schedule because, we don't have. Hello, JT Waterman. Nice to see you. I just, of course, they just always look for people to just take on things, whether they're competent, whether you're qualified, but there again, that kind of loops me back into what I say about how the elite are running the schools. The sociology departments have run the schools for decades now, and they have everybody where they want them. And they'll blow smoke and everything, and they'll get you, and they'll just keep looping you back. Yeah, maybe it'll do something for your ego if a school wants you to teach something besides music. Why don't you just teach 5 other things and teach 30 minutes of what your domain of competence is? How about that for you? I said, no, thanks. I'll stick to what I'm just give me what I signed up for. How about that? That'll work. That is just fine. All is well. So I'm going to take you guys to the actual article, and I don't typically cover sports and athletics, and I don't typically cover those things on here, but I think once they start, all of these things are kind of there's a little bit of a synergy going on. They're kind of melded together here, and they're working together. They're working together for one goal, and I think it's a point of interest. So without further ado, I will take you to that story. But you guys, while I'm setting up for that. You guys notice how, of course, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey and Elon Musk and many others, they become known. They get to the pinnacle of their wealth on some domain that they're not even versed in, that they have no. Did I say they don't have the aptitude? No. But I said that that's not your domain of competence. We want people to be doing things we want people performing things that are under their domain of competence. I don't want to, the guy that, I don't know if I want a guy that was a genius at computers doing health. I don't know. I don't think I want that, because that's not his domain of competence. It's just not. It's not. I mean, you might be a visionary, but that does not, that doesn't help the cause. It doesn't help the profession. It doesn't help the competence. So I'm going to take you guys right now. What you see before you is a screen that says, this is from CBSSports.com. So LeBron James, the segue into what I've been rambling about, halfway rant, halfway ramble. LeBron James wants to put together ownership group to purchase Atlanta Dream for Kelly Loeffler. All right. So this was actually written only 8 hours ago. So I started doing some thinking, and that brought me to a bit of my rant. But according to this, LeBron James and the WNBA have far more in common than just basketball. Both have been long champions of social justice, roles that they have embraced even more since Minnesota police killed George Floyd in May. Those progressive values have come into conflict with those espoused by Republican Senator and Atlanta Dream co-owner Kelly Loeffler, who does not support the Black Lives Matter movement and has repeatedly called for the depoliticization of professional sports. Her presence in a league that is otherwise so socially conscious has caused quite a bit of controversy, with the players and pundits calling for her to sell her share of the team. She has refused to do so, which has only emboldened WNBA players to campaign against her. Several players were photographed wearing, quote, vote Warnock, end quote, shirts in the days leading up to Tuesday's runoff senatorial election in Georgia in honor of Loeffler's opponent, the Reverend Raphael Warnock. According to Warnock's team, their actions helped raise $236,000 in donation for his campaign. And as of this writing, Warnock is expected to win his race against Loeffler. The WNBA's players appear to have been successful in getting Loeffler out of office, but her presence in the league remains a source of conflict. That is where James comes in. On Twitter Tuesday, he offered to put together an ownership group to purchase the team from Loeffler and her co-owner, Mary Brock. So you guys get to see the damage right here. Okay, so here we go. We got LeBron James. Oh, here. I'm not a follower on Twitter, but I think I'm going to put together an ownership group for the Dream. Who's in? Hashtag Black Votes Matter. So I hope you guys can see this. Hope you guys are doing well out there, and just entertain me a little bit on this. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to give you guys some context, trying to give you some landscape, if you will, if you can handle it. All right, so I'm going back. So as you can see, look at the team, and everybody looks so militant and so angry and so powerful, right? Is that power? Look at those faces. Everybody looks just downright miserable, right? Right? And it looks like a diverse team, right? Vote Warnock. All right, so this was obviously the snapshot. This was posted at 9:28 p.m. Jan 5th, 2021. So, what are we up to? Like 14 hours or whatnot? All right, so according to this, LeBron's offer is a positive gesture, but there is no guarantee that he will succeed in purchasing the team. Loeffler is under no obligation to sell her share in the team, no matter how uncomfortable the situation becomes. James has campaigned on behalf of several Democratic candidates during his career and has been a vocal opponent of President Donald Trump, whom Loeffler has aligned with politically. If she were open to a sale, James would likely be able to afford to purchase the team comfortably. While discerning team valuations in the WNBA is difficult due to how often they are owned in conjunction with an NBA team, we do know that the league tends to lose money and reportedly generates only around $60 million in revenue annually. In its last full season, the NBA generated $8.76 billion, or around 146 times more revenue. Apply that logic to a typical NBA team sale in the neighborhood of $2 billion, and a WNBA team would be worth approximately $13.7 million. This is not an exact science, of course, but James will make almost $40 million this season alone. He can afford to purchase a WNBA team if it becomes available. And once again, I want to thank everybody for coming in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Oh, thanks so much, guys, for coming in. I really appreciate you guys for humoring me on some of this. We'll see. I guess that'll just be, I mean, it's not really a developing story, but I'm just thinking, this is where the politics meets the athletes and the technocrats, and it's all just kind of getting linked in together. It really is. And let me just say hello to a few friends in the chat. Hello to JT Waterman again, if I missed it. And Touchdown Sean, thank you so much. And you are most generous. And you said, oh, you're most generous. Thanks so much for that. And AZ Infidel. AZ says, I think I see where you're heading with this. Well, maybe it's unremarkable, but I just think that once again, and I don't mean to highlight this in a cultural way to alienate anyone, and of course, we've all been used, we've all been lied to, but in this instance, I am highlighting specifically the way they put they shellac everything with a black face, and then everybody in the black community just starts to swoon. Oh man, you just trying to keep a black man down, and he just, you don't think our brother's a smart man, businessman. You can't possibly question anybody's motivations, right? You can't question anything. Right? Because that's you are being a microaggressor of some level, because you are being biased, and the white man has got your bias all under control. So, and Melinda Ann Burns serves up a nice follow the money bags. I thank you guys so much for humoring me on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a word of thanks to our wonderful sponsors, and we'll be back for much, much more. We're going to talk about the identified scapegoat in the identified scapegoats, the current identified scapegoats in the delay in the stimulus number 2. We'll be right back. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, there's something for everyone. So please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for all that you do, and I really appreciate you guys for spending some of your time here on on Monday because I say you have choices, and I thank you for choosing Black Spring on your Wednesday. So we're going to move on here. And what I want to go to next, I want to go ahead and take you to, and this, I mean, you may not be affected by this, or you may be affected by this, or you might know somebody that's affected by this, but who cares? We're going to go on to our next segment, and we're going to talk about the scapegoat in the delayed stimulus payment number 2. So I thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in to this segment. And if you guys haven't had a chance or an opportunity to feed the AI around here, you will have an opportunity to do so. Appreciate it. If you could do that by either hitting that like button or the unlike button, or sharing out the stream. And thank you so much once again to Derek C. Williams for taking the time to share out the stream and throw that extra caution to the wind. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful in these times. So I do hope you guys are doing well out there. And I want to read one comment also before I go into that. And AZ Infidel says, Marx considered himself a scientist. What you are describing is a scientific method for manipulation in order to achieve a goal. I can't see it, and I see exactly what you're saying. I'm picking up exactly what you're putting down there. And JT Waterman says, I did thumb up and it won't hurt you or cost you anything if you do. I double dogged. Nice. Now you're speaking. Somebody's speaking my language here. I gotta go a little bit more off script with you guys around here because I don't know. I think I just get to the meat of things a little bit better at times, and yeah, I just it sometimes it just feels a little bit better. It's a little bit more inspiring, a little bit more impactful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over to, this came out of the New York Post yesterday. And of course, we're going to kick the can down the road once again from our that's your government at work for you. H&R Block TurboTax blamed for delays in stimulus checks. Anybody see this one coming? Maybe you did. Okay, so I'm going to bring this forward a little bit. Good morning, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about this situation. JT Waterman says going for the throat with the truth isn't always bad. Well, I have to take the shellac off of it. Is what I'm going to do. And a little bit less fluff and just dig in. So here we are. This is our New York Post story that was posted yesterday. A little bit of firestorm also from Twitter. According to this, H&R Block and TurboTax have come under fire from irate customers who've accused the tax preparation giants of meddling with the delivery of their stimulus checks and causing unnecessary delays and confusion. The Internal Revenue Service started sending out the $600 payments last week to eligible Americans, including those who have filed their 2019 income tax returns. But some H&R Block and TurboTax customers say they are confused about when and even where their money will arrive because the tax preparation companies are acting as stimulus middlemen, receiving the money first and then deciding how it will be delivered. Quote, I just read that people who file TurboTax are having issues receiving their second stimulus. Anyone? I use TurboTax and mine is nowhere to be found, end quote. One user griped on Twitter, where H&R Block and TurboTax were trending topics Tuesday morning. The problems weren't universal. Many H&R Block and TurboTax users said that they got their checks without a hitch, but both companies have acknowledged that some people may experience hiccups in receiving them. In a news release, H&R Block warned, for example, that the IRS, quote, Get My Payment tool, launched to help taxpayers track the status of their checks, may tell some customers that their money would be deposited in a bank account with an unfamiliar account number. That's a sign, the company said, that the cash went to a went to a type of H&R Block account that the Kansas City-based company sets up for customers who opted to have their tax prep fees deducted from their tax refund. The unexpected diversion alarmed some taxpayers. Quote, "I thought someone stole my identity," end quote, Jennifer Meyer tweeted. Quote, "I know this may not be," quote, "H&R Block's fault, but it's curious how my first stimulus had no issues," end quote. Quote, "This is absolutely absurd that my family received the first stimulus directly into our checking. Now it's been sent to H&R Block," end quote, Tina Humphrey griped to H&R Block on Twitter. H&R Block said it would deliver the money to customers based on how they chose to receive the last refund, meaning some people will get the money by direct deposit, others by check, and others still via a prepaid debit card. But the debit cards present the debit cards present another set of potential problems for customers of H&R Block and TurboTax, which both said it expected people to use the same cards they used during tax season to receive their stimulus money. Customers whose debit card accounts are closed or no longer active, however, will see their stimulus funds returned to the IRS. The feds will then have to send the affected taxpayers a paper check, which would take longer. Okay, you got a nice picture of the storefront of H&R Block here. All right, TurboTax on Tuesday sought to pin the blame on the IRS, saying it, quote, the sole party with the ability to that it is, quote, the sole party with the ability to determine eligibility and distribute stimulus payments, end quote. Quote, "We know how important these funds are for so many Americans and that everyone is anxious to get their money," end quote, TurboTax spokesman Ashley McMahon said in an email, quote, "We are partnering with the IRS to help taxpayers receive their payments as quickly as possible," end quote. In a news release Monday, the IRS admitted that some payments may have been sent to closed or inactive accounts because of how quickly the agency moved to distribute the money. Neither H&R Block nor the IRS immediately responded to emails seeking comment on Tuesday. So perhaps that will continue to be a story. Good morning, everyone that's joining us, or good afternoon. Let me check the time. Oh, we're still in the morning. We're still in the morning here in the States, even on coast to coast. So thank you so much. Good morning to R. Jones. Thank you so much for coming in. And I would agree. It is sadness. It is sadness. Yeah, I wonder how many of the congressmen have delays or glitches, or how have they managed during this time? Can you imagine? It's making so much for dignity, right? Human dignity, liberty, all of these things, right? So AZ Infidel says, interesting to hear that H&R Block has a bank account set up in your name. Right. And I don't even know what the name of, maybe I used to know the name of that bank. And JT Waterman, I'm going to get to your comment in just a second. Anarchy says all government officials still get their paychecks stolen out of the earnings of our labor. Yeah, get your butt back out there to work. Get back out there to work. That's all they have for us. That's all they have. And people swear we're not ruled by monarchy. I think we are. It's a two-party system. I mean, that's my assertion. Because I mean, these people go in skinny and they come out fat. Is that a surprise? Or am I being too real, too fantastic with my conspiracies? All right. So according to Melinda Ann Burns, she says, I got my $600, but it's all going to property taxes. So it isn't stimulating anything here in the house. Gotcha. Rachel says, that's the part that ticks me off. They don't have to struggle. Right. And according to this, and I'll talk just briefly about the lovely, the failed 117th Congress preceded by the preceded by the 116th Congress. And I guess I could keep going back a few more, but I'll give a little comment about that in just a second. But JT Waterman says, Black Spring with Autumn barbecue sauce will work for Sherlock Wolf. All right. Yeah. So honestly, it's very irritating to see the way the elite and the elite in our Congress and how they're all just running the roost. They're all just another branch. We have so many branches of elitism that I don't really, it's very angering to see what's happening, to see it. I think we've all had some type of hunch or whatever, if for the lack of a better word, but it's very apparent. And we just keep the system going, right? We just keep it rolling, right? Rachel says ours is going to taxes too. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're negotiating, no matter where you are in the need for this thing, you're negotiating crumbs, but then you can't even quite get that done right. You can't quite get that done right. Yes, touche. Angela Reed says it's a stimulant, right? Because once they break, as they say, I'm doing colloquialism, so go with me here just a second. They break you off a little piece of change just so you can come back for some more, right? And for those people that have really fallen, they really might need some more money, whether they're small business or whether they are unemployed or whatever the situation is. And I've even heard, I can't verify this, but I've heard many people say that they did not receive the first stimulus. So what are they going to do? They're going to flip it this time. Well, for everybody that got the stimulus on the first time, you won't get it this second time around in a timely way. Or chances are, the caveat is, if you don't get it, there's a chance you're going to be able to apply for credit if you don't get it. Because I don't know if you guys are aware that Jan 15th is when this is actually supposed to, they're going to stop doing the direct deposits. I think the direct deposits are going to stop. I'm not sure if it's only direct deposits, but they were doing this in three forms: the checks, the debit cards, as well as the direct deposits. So, you're going to get cut off. And then I guess the only recourse you have is to either go through H&R's system or go through whomever your person is and to file the second stimulus that you didn't receive in some form of a credit. And I find that's a little bit convenient too, right? You already know there's a chance that people aren't going to get this. So you've already conveniently got a credit set up for them. So it's making people grovel that actually really need it. Or, the point is, it's not their money. It's not their money. But they're not suffering for anything. They haven't had to have that discussion with a mortgage company about, oh, well, if I defer these payments, will you make me triple down and pay them all at one time once the moratorium ends? They're not having those conversations. We are. The same thing, I would imagine, whether it's a student loan or whether it's a car payment, these negotiations are either just on rent. Everybody has a different situation, whatever it is. But it's just interesting the way that they handle things, and they just want you to be quiet and say, don't complain. I mean, Nancy Pelosi was purportedly quoted as saying that the $600 was generous. So just get your butt back out there to work and don't complain. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to get ready to move us on to the next segment. I'm going to read a couple of comments. Starting with R. Jones, who says we need to repeatedly publicize a detailed report of our government's expenditures. And Anarchy Television says, I don't see me getting anything. And AZ said that I know two people who never received the original stimulus. And we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going here. JT Waterman says, as Nancy said, they can just settle for the crumbs. Yeah, that's, she's she should just go back to, she's opening her refrigerator and eating ice cream and bragging about it on late night television. I mean, what a joke. Fat cats, right? Is that what they call them? Fat cats. No, I say thieves in the temple. Thieves in the temple. In fact, I think even Prince wrote a tune about thieves in the temple. I think Prince was ahead of his time in many ways, but I think some of it maybe even had a biblical, a biblical, deference there, truth in there. All right, so I'm going to keep this going here. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. And I will apologize once again. I'm kind of off on the schedule is not symmetrical right now. I mean, this is the first of the year, and I had before the first of the year, I knew things would be a little wonky. So as soon as I can stabilize some things, I will put that out. A little bit delayed, but then also somebody else made a comment earlier about just having a mental, sometimes you just need a break to decompress from all of this, all of the crazy makers and all of these things that are going on. I mean, today is fully loaded. I mean, last night, I don't know, did you guys pay attention to the races? I mean, it seems like, what did they do? The one trick pony where you do the one trick pony where you go to bed and you go to bed with the score of one thing and then you wake up and it's something else. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So the next story we're going to go into is, we're going to talk just really briefly here. I want to show a commercial. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's kind of a commercial. It's not really a commercial, but it just kind of shows a little bit of the, some political theater on the floor, the hypocrisy about, challenging, a historical digression is what we're going to do just for a second here. Really appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. I did have another story also. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the A416. The A416 that was I'm sure it's probably still pending. I'm not sure when the vote comes on for it, but I'm going to get into that just a second. But I just want to give you just a little bit of a kind of a nasty palate cleanser, but it'll just be we'll just have a little bit of a clip from past floor happenings. I'm going to read a couple of comments and then I'm going to take you to that. And then I don't know. I mean, the rules, it's just absolutely the elite. I don't even know where that comes from. They've come up with all these new house rules, and I don't know. It's just it's bizarro land, but it's also rewriting it's transforming this country. It's transforming the culture. And I don't know what the backlash is going to be for not following along. Is it going to be 1984 responses when you don't use their language, when you say mom or dad and you don't say parent, or what are you putting us through? All right. So JT Waterman says, you are on time. It's lunchtime here at Black Spring. You are how I know it's lunchtime. Some days I listen while whipping food at young ones. All right, guys. So I'm going to move us along here. Move us along to a little bit of imagery. Thank you so much. Good morning. It's Dr. Bombay. Nice to see you here. Thank you so much for coming in. He says good morning. Host in chat. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to a little bit of theater, a little bit of hypocrisy, a little bit of objection, hypocrisy. We'll see if that happens today on the Capitol Hill, right? Are you guys anticipating that? Or are you thinking it's going to be an unremarkable day? I don't know. We'll see. All right, guys, here we go.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama.
I must object because of the overwhelming evidence of official misconduct.
Mr. President, I have an objection.
Mr. President, I
I have an objection.
I stand for the purpose of objecting to the counting of the vote.
I have an objection.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia.
Mr. President, I object.
I rise to object. The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate.
The rules do care.
I have an objection. I have an objection at the desk.
I want to voice my objection.
Arise in objection.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
I have an objection.
I am proud to stand with her in filing this objection.
I object, and it is not signed by a senator.
I object to the certificate.
Is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter
There
of
is no
objection?
debate. There is no debate.
That's one.
All right, I just thought that might be a little bit of a I don't know, a little change in the gear for you there. But yeah, so that came from, I think Matt Gaetz has a channel or whatnot. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's going to be an unremarkable day at the end of the day, but I do think that there's a lot happening there. And yeah, I just wish everybody the best wherever you are on this, and we'll just keep going from there. So once again, I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn, and I'm going to read this for JT Waterman. Thank you. She says Pence has to figure out whose neck he wants to save, his and his friends, or Trump in America. Well, I've been saying this for a while. All bets are off. It's just, who knows? Who knows? And then, of course, there's also been, you got your misinformation campaign, your disinformation campaigns, and your no information campaigns. You got it all rolled into a nice little hurry up and wait. And Melinda Ann Burns says it's all too much to take in. All this negativity don't hardly leave you time to even catch your breath. Right on. That's why I'm saying it's like you just, it's a rat. It turns into a rabbit hole. And R. Jones says, does anyone else realize that it is mostly grown men who are putting their energy into making life harder for families with children? Wow. That's interesting. And Rachel says there's another bill in NY to put people in concentration camps. Yes, I just want to talk briefly about that. And the defense of that bill is what I wanted to talk about. That another blackface bill. I tell you, I don't mean to. This is not about alienation. It's just about. I'm calling it the way I see it, and I'm calling it for those who all just want to just swoon and just want to come with their visions and not with their interest from a community standpoint. At what point do you stop doing that and see that there's a bigger, you're out of the frame, you're out of the framework. When you come to the same conclusion, your conclusion is the same every single time. All right. And JT Waterman says Biden had to cancel his parade and dinner so they didn't turn into a Trump rally. Ooh, anarchy. Okay. AZ says Pennsylvania vote to not seat that senator is possibly a taste of things to come. Have you seen the video? Nope. I have not. All right. So we're going to keep going here. And we're going to turn our attention to something else. We're going to turn our attention to, just briefly, the bill. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard it, but that the wicked King Cuomo over in New York, he's ready to rule by fiat any way he can. He's going to shut your dignity and liberty down wherever available. And then this is no exception, is where I'm about to go. So we'll see a little bit of support. We'll see a little bit of support and a little bit of even the tone of these things that they come up with is just so thick. It's thick with, it's just thick with elite it's just propagated. It's elite. So we're gonna go into where the support from this. I think it's coming from the penman, one of the penmen themselves, the person that's going to take credit. Of course, it's going to be blackface that's going to take credit for this. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing the people that actually end up on the front or on the banner of these things? All right, guys. So I'm going to open that up. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And let's do a really quick break and I'll be right back. All right, so let me give you a little bit of the premise here. We're going to move through this one really quickly here. So according to this, just really quickly, this came originally out of the state of New York and is pre-filed as 2021 through 2022 regular sessions in Assembly. And it was introduced by M. of A. Perry, read once and referred to the Committee on Health, an act to amend the public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. The people of the state of New York, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. So, of course, this is going to be a developing story for us, but no less, we're going to move to the support or the defense of this actual bill. You guys will get to decide what you think about the defense here. Just 1 second. So I thank you guys once again so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And I say that because why? You have choices around here. And I thank you for making this one your choice at this hour. Black Spring with Autumn. All right, so what you see before you is entitled, this is coming from our friends at the JBS. And before I give you that, let's have a word from our friends.
This segment of our show is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years. Dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters.
All right. So what we have here, once again, from our friends at the TNA, this is New York Assemblyman Nick Perry offers defense on controversial detainment legislation. Now, this is written by Dennis Barrett on the 5th. And according to this, the New York Democrat Assemblyman Nick Perry has issued a statement defending controversial legislation he introduced that would give Governor Andrew Cuomo powers to detain those deemed to represent a health threat. As a New American reported previously, the legislation Bill A416 would allow governor, after having ascertained a health threat from a sick person or a group of sick people, to, quote, order the removal and or detention of such a person or of a group of such persons by a single order, identifying such persons either by name or by a reasonably specific description of the individuals or a group being detained, end quote. In addition, the measure provides the governor with the authority to forcibly quarantine people who had not otherwise been detained, to require medical testing and examination of those thought to have been, quote, exposed to or infected by a contagious disease, end quote, and to forcibly treat and vaccinate those thought to have been exposed or infected. So here, I'm going to put this here for you guys so you can do this one at your leisure, because here they've extracted, I think this is about the length of the original doc, but I'll put it out there for you. So of course they've given it to you here, and you can of course zoom in and zoom out and see the sections that are spelled out. Of course, I don't know how many sections, but I'll just keep going here. So you can take your time with this at your leisure. But Assemblyman Perry voiced his defense of the proposed bill via Twitter. For background, he described why the measure was originally introduced during a previous legislative session. The bill, he noticed, quote, was initially introduced to address public health concerns related to the containment of the Ebola virus after it was discovered that Ebola-infected persons had entered the United States, end quote. He then noted that the bill did not represent any intent on his part to undermine the constitutionally protected rights of Americans. Quote, I am an American who understands our Constitution is sacred and provides us with the right to agree or disagree and hold different positions on issues that may relate to our civil and our constitutional rights, end quote, Perry wrote. Quote, there is no intent, no plan, or provisions in my bill to take away or violate any rights or liberties that all Americans are entitled to under our Constitution, either state or federal. A proper reading of the bill would find that significant attention was paid to protect individual rights, which could be affected by exercising authority granted in this bill. So if you believe him, right? So that's why I'm going to do you one better and drop it in the link. All right. There you go. All right. So I'll keep going with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep going here so you kind of get to the doc here. And actually, this is Nick Perry, my statement on A416. Actually, let's open it here just for a second. We'll see what do we have here. All right. Assemblyman Nick Perryman's statement off A416. To all those concerned about Bill A416 who do not have the background information, this bill was initially introduced to address public health concerns related to the containment of the Ebola virus after it was discovered that Ebola-infected persons had entered the United States. I am an American who understands the Constitution is sacred and provides us with the right to agree or disagree and hold different positions. So we got that section. But here again, the link that I provided will give you can read more of his whatever on this, but I'm sure there's some infringement in there because otherwise, of course it is. There's going to be infringement in there. There's a lot wrong with that, with the premise of it. So for him to say a proper reading, do you see that's why people have referred to DC as arrogant, and not just arrogant, but what's my favorite word here? It's the elite tone in which, you're obviously not reading it properly. You're just not reading properly. And he probably didn't, of course, he probably didn't read it. And if he didn't read it, he probably didn't, just because he read it doesn't mean he understands it. The measure does contain language that purports to protect those detained. Subsection 7 of the measure allows that a detained person may request release, but notes that subsequent to this request, the governor, quote, shall make an application for a court order authorizing such detention within 3 business days after such request, end quote. And that the application, quote, shall include a request for an expedited hearing, end quote. Without that court order, the measure says the person requesting release cannot be detained, quote, for more than 5 business days, end quote. While this language sounds marginally enticing, in practice, how many people so detained will have knowledge of how to navigate these provisions? Will they have access to legal counsel? Perhaps But as the legislation says, such counsel will be, quote, facilitated, end quote, only, quote, to the extent feasible under the circumstances, end quote. Moreover, what court would side against the governor in favor of average citizens so detained? The answer, most likely, is few, if any. Under the legislation, detainees in general may be held up to 60 days without a court order. But it notes also that, quote, the governor or his or her delegee shall seek further court review of such detention within 90 days following the initial court order authorizing detention, and thereafter within 90 days of each subsequent court review, end quote. In other words, detainees may be held for some time, for quite some time. As for forced treatment, near the end of the legislation's text, subsection 13, quote, the provisions of this section shall not be construed to permit or require the forcible administration of any medication without prior court order, end quote. Again, it is necessary to ask, given the passiveness of the courts in the face of many states' CV restrictions, what court would not favor the governor over the average citizen in such a case? Further defending this measure, Assemblyman Perry argues that the original disease that sparked the measure, Ebola, is not presently threatening the United States. Future pandemics, isn't that cozy? Future pandemics make the measure necessary. Quote, many learned scientists believe that the likelihood of such a deadly pandemic is still real, and somewhere in the future, there may be the need for people to be protected from a person or persons carrying a very deadly and transmittable virus. And this bill is designated to ensure that our government could lawfully act to protect all the people, end quote. Alas, this measure appears in conflict with the Fourth Amendment, which reads, quote, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. Hang on 1 second here, guys. 1 second. Thank you guys so much. Hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry for the delay there, but I'll finish this one up here. Okay, so to protect all the people and the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized, end quote. The Fourth Amendment surfaces issues particularly prickly for the New York detention legislation. Not least among these are issues of surveillance. The Perry measure hinges on the governor identifying those to be detained. How were they so identified? Were they the victims of illegal government surveillance? Writing for the Lawfare, University of Minnesota, Associate Professor of Law Alan Z. Rosenstein pointed out that the surveillance can rule afoul of the Fourth Amendment's protections. Quote, a threshold question is how the government collected the information at issue, end quote. Rosenstein wrote, quote, if the government required infected individuals to download a location broadcasting app on their phones, or in an extreme case, to wear a physical device like a GPS bracelet, that would almost certainly trigger the Fourth Amendment, end quote. Moreover, he continued, quote, if the government instead track the quarantined person's phone directly, for example, through IMSI catchers, or indirectly by compelling the disclosure of the location data from the cell phone provider, whether the activity was a search would likely turn on how much information the government acquired, and whether the search was nevertheless reasonable in the absence of a warrant would turn on the intrusiveness of the search relative to its importance in enforcing quarantine. Broad constant surveillance would likely not pass constitutional muster, end quote. Well, we got a lot of things that are not constitutional, right? And how many things have already been struck down? I mean, now I guess there's HIPAA goes all the way out the window, right? When you've got these devices tracking you. So, for example, you know, I've been told, or at least I'm told that even the app on our phones, this convenient, the health app on the phone is even compiling information. You know, some people, oh, well, you know, I'm counting my steps today. And meanwhile, how do you know that this information is not being stored? How do you know it's not being stored? So I'm saying, this is, I would say, right. I would say I'm not a legal scholar, but I would say it's looking like it's unconstitutional. But is that a surprise? We are dealing with a situation in which it looks like the people in power, either the state and the federal level, are protecting them. They have safeguarded themselves. They think these laws were written for them, or they just need to be savvy enough to get around them. So it's just, they usually, they bend everything just enough so that it won't break. And then when it gets to that point, you're already in progress of having it being, unconstitutional, or your rights being violated. So, you just look at your iPhone. Notice it's the iPhone, the iPad. Well, what's an eye? It's watching you, right? And how do you know when it's not watching you? We don't know that. They said, oh, well, you can turn it off. Just go in your settings and tell it not to collect that data, or tell it to stop tracking you. Well, we'll see what that looks like. What does that look like right about now? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, but I do think I included this one into the stream for you already. If not, I will do so that you guys can dig into this. I don't know. Maybe you want to maybe have your own counsel look into these so that you can figure out where you fit in this situation, where you need more, where you need support, or where you need some clarity here. So according to this, there are other important constitutional issues as well, many raised by Judge Andrew Napolitano in his syndicated column on March 19, 2020, in which he addressed the constitutionality of lockdowns, said Napolitano. So believe it or not, we're almost to the end of this one. All right, according to this, the Contracts Clause of the Constitution prohibits the states from interfering with lawful contracts, such as leases and employment agreements. And the Due Process Clause of the Fourth Amendment prohibits the states from interfering with life, liberty, or property without a trial at which the state must prove fault. The Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment requires just compensation when the state meaningfully interferes with an owner's chosen lawful use of his property. Taken together, these clauses reveal the significant protections of private property in the Constitution itself. And to this, the threat of punishment that has accompanied these decrees, and the fact that they are executive decrees, not legislation. And one can see the paramount rejection of basic democratic and constitutional principles in the minds and words and deeds of those who have perpetrated them. And to all this, the protection in the First Amendment of the right to associate and the judicially recognized right to travel, both of which are natural rights. And it is clear that these nanny state rules are unconstitutional, unlawful, and unworthy of respect or compliance. So, and that's the caveat of what's been happening here since the CV of 19, what I'm calling since AC after CV 19. And, once these things get turned over to these individual states, it's just, what are people going to do? And as this article has already said, who's going to side with a citizen, with an average citizen, when the governor's edict is coming down on them? When it's unlawful, when it's coming down on the compliance violation, the book is being thrown at you. All right, according to this, Assemblyman Perryman's measure, for all the likely good intent behind it, nonetheless represents a dangerous grant of power to the executive branch of state government that likely would be abused or at least improperly applied. To his, Assemblyman Perry notes in his defense of the measure that he is, quote, open to amendments that would address real concerns raised by critics and will quite happily accept suggestions that will improve the bill in regard to concerns about constitutional rights, end quote. At the very least, that is a refreshing statement from a legislator in this time of seeming unbridgeable political polarization. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I just want to say that this is very much like the HR 6666 by Bobby Rush out of Chicago, another blackface document. Unbelievable. it's always intent, the intent, right? What was it that, I'm not the author of this. They said, what was it? The road of good intentions was paved with a Harvard elite in the middle of it. This is one of those things. They're always coming up with these things that actually end up doing more harm than good. And they don't care about the Constitution. And I'm saying this is a very pivotal time. We're witnessing, the fall of this experiment. We're witnessing the fall of an empire, because if they are full power, then all of your rights are going, 1 and 2 are going out the window. They're going out the window, because this situation has been used to manipulate and erode. Like it's expedited. It's expedited the rights. We're on a fast track, and it's happening so quickly, and so many things are happening behind the scenes. Because the HR 6666 that we went over that before, that bill was the contact tracing. And the next thing you knew, you woke up a couple of days or a week or so later, and you already had a notification to update your phone's operating system, so it would include tracking. And for those that are not doing it, see, the thing is, I think that's also where, you guys can throw the 5G or the conspiracy in there if you want. But the 5G, if we end up with a system that can track every aspect of what we're doing, then you're automatically, the Fourth Amendment is you're in violation. It's already violated. But if the ruling class decides that the Constitution is not progressive enough, then what do you guys think is going to happen to the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment? What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? They're getting ready to add. They're sucking up more power. They're getting ready. I mean, I'm not sure where they are on making on the idea of making, what is it, DC and Puerto Rico states. And then they won't even, the ruling class and the Biden administration, they won't answer any questions on court packing. So where do you think we're going to wind up in this situation? So I think the ruling class is it's pretty much I don't know. I don't want to call it. It looks like I have a comment here. We have the definition. He says, we must resist any gun control legislation. We must pressure the police and sheriffs to downright not enforce the. Can I say amen? Amen to the definition of anarchy. But I think there's a lot of things going on with that behind the scenes. Because there's some extreme gun laws that are in place that they're trying to slide through. And see, the thing about it is, you guys, I don't know if you guys remember, but Biden said early on in the campaign that, what was it, Beto O'Rourke was going to be basically going to be his guy. It's going to come around and start taking people's. They claim it's the AR, but I do you think I believe they're stopping at the AR? No, I'm not convinced. No, they're radical. Like, we're like, every day, every couple of months, this place is more and more, you recognize it even less. So it's just like, I think we're running out of time, folks. We're running out of time. And it looks like they're trying to turn Georgia to Virginia. They throw in, well, Stacey Abrams, she's done this. She got the Senate and the House, and oh my gosh. I don't know. I think they say, as they say, and I'm not advocating for anything, but I'm just thinking we're kind of talked out, right? We're kind of rallied. At what point are people rallied out and posterity movemented out? I mean, I just don't see this ending well. I really don't. So I don't know. I mean, many of these elites, they think that the Constitution is just, a piece of paper anyway. So, once they figure out how to gently roll it along, like the more they remove things, the more they're replacing it. They're not, what is it, the Build Back Better? Oh yeah, they're going to build that Constitution back too, right? In their image, or dare I say a woman, if you guys heard whoever that guy, I can't even think of the guy's name. They're building it back better, all right. Everything's coming back, but you won't recognize it. It's coming back, but not for your benefit. Let's see, I'm going to read the comment here from the definition. Says, protesting is just begging your oppressors to stop oppressing you. I see that. I see it. I just don't know where it's, it's, like I said, is today going to be another? I'm just not sure about this system right now. I just think that it's, as I've said, I changed the premise of this channel, not the total premise, but I'm just saying the constrained and the unconstrained. And then it seems like even with those two visions going on for government, we're all less liberated. We all have less dignity at the end of the day. So this is not working. It's not working. I mean, I've reached out to Dianne Feinstein, and I got a nice letter from her secretary that I'm sure she doesn't know anything about. Yeah, I rejected the HR 6666, and I got, a nice little letter from Feinstein's secretary. The formality letter. You know what they do. So yeah, so with that, we're gonna start to pack it in and fold it up in just a few moments. But I want to give a shout out to everybody and then give a word to our sponsors. And then I just have a little bit of commentary on even these silly house rules that they have. But like I said, we are looking more and more like 1984. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a fine if you call your mother instead of parent, or you call your brother instead of sibling? And they're ruling themselves with these little fiats, and they think they operate like they are kings and queens. Then I hear people mocking, England and all these, and, Britain. Well, at least they're admitting what that's what they're calling themselves. They're not calling themselves something else. It's just, we've got too many illusions going on, and we're losing. We're eluded and we're losing. We're losing. Very, very dark times, very scary times. Do I say I have the solutions? No, I don't have the solutions. But I do think I have enough perspective to realize that something about this is not quite working. It's more than not quite working. So I'm going to read a couple of comments here from hello to, is it Puget or Puget Sound Community Watch? It says, we are children of God, and it is already written that we always win. Fear not, people. And Melinda Ann Burns says, actions speak louder than words. Rachel says, begging like a dog. And let's see, we have definition says, Melinda Ann Burns, these clowns wipe their butts with the Second Amendment. And Steve Willis says, but we're funding this. Yeah, right. Absolutely. See, that's the thing. The power that we do have, I don't think that we've been engaged or been nearly as active and involved in that, because like I was saying, they've got it. I hate to say, they've kind of got us by the stars, for the lack of a better word, because even as consumers, we're under a bit of enslavement. Like we've been corralled, and we fall right into, big ticket or big box, using the big box stores. And meanwhile, the little guys are getting shut down. And the availability, the digitization, those businesses that can offer the online orders, they've survived, but those are still the big box stores. Those are still the bigger stores that have been able to survive. But like I said, this is a part of a plan. This is a part of the GR or the IR, the I4R. All of it is a mechanism or a vessel to get you to their agenda or their sustainability goals. Those are the end games. And that's pretty much been the end game of many. Everybody has a role in it. You got blackface auxiliaries buying, shutting down somebody. But then this was the hypocrisy that I want to bring out about the whole LeBron James situation. Okay. But aren't they the party of tolerance and the party of, when you talk about the left, if you're going with the left-right paradigm, isn't the left supposed to be the most tolerant? And aren't they supposed to be all about equality and lacking, making everything, getting rid of disparities and spreading the wealth and climate change? So I'm just thinking, okay, well, wasn't Kelly Loeffler a woman? But you had no problem steamrolling her. She's a woman, right? But she's just the wrong. She's the wrong color, right? Is that the difference here? I mean, just saying. I'm just asking. If you guys have something better, bring it. But I'm just saying. I mean, it's holes everywhere. Holes everywhere. Hypocrisy everywhere. All out of the left. You can be a puppet. You can be whatever they want. But then that'll appear in some places. It appears to be, oh, that's progressive because you see somebody of your background. Oh, well, yeah. I'm blasphemous because I'm going to call it like I see it and not give you the echo chamber. That's all I can do. If I do anything else, then I'm not being me. I'm not preserving myself. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. But it's silly. It's silly that they're changing all these. That Pelosi has won her gavel again. Laissez-moi, she has won her gavel again, and she's back at it with her little fiat rules for the Congress, which eventually will trickle down to what the State Department of Education will be telling your kids what they can and cannot say, and and then what? What's the consequence? What's the consequence for not using her language? What's the consequence for not using their language, folks? Who's in charge here? All right, so the Puget Sound community says their perception is not my reality, and I don't subscribe. As children of God, we never lose. One love. Thank you so much for that. I don't subscribe myself, but I'm saying, you got, the minions and the people that just, they just lap up, they just suck up every little thing, and they will forgive. They'll forgive any and everything that comes down the pike, because they just want to get back to the status quo and the bend over politics and globalism. But don't get in the way. Definition says it's Mitch McConnell's fault he turned his back on Trump and denied $2,000 payments right before an election. That Mitch McConnell is, yikes. Rachel says freedom of speech. All right, guys. So let me give a word of thanks to our sponsors. I'll be right back and we'll finish out our segment here on the Wednesday, on a pivotal Wednesday. Thanks so much, guys. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, there's something for everyone. So please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right. Angela Reed says FEMA camps. Yes, that is, I think the FEMA camps are going to be, well, in fact, FEMA is hiring right now, by the way. And I don't know which area. I mean, I think I've seen some, I'm sure I've seen some, I've seen advertisements that they are hiring, but like I said, it's just, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Is it the camps for the non-compliant? I mean, how long will it take before more states come up with their own fiat and their own rules under the CV safety? How long? But I'm yeah, but it seems like I'm getting blasted more and more with, and I thought I'm like, this is ironic that I keep getting these notifications, or even just seeing it. So yes, but thank you guys so much for tuning in today on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to everybody in the stream. And yes, I guess I want to, the closing remark would be something like, elitisms are everywhere. And yeah, it's just everywhere you look. I mean, everywhere there's some form of justice sign with a ban everywhere. Like, you look to the right of the interstate, or I'm like, what? For lack of a better term, is everybody smoking the same ish right about now? Is everybody? It's the ruling class. And the fact that let me just share this with you, and I'll put this in the stream for you as well. Melinda says that the FEMA ads are all over the internet. Ay. Okay, so I'm just going to flash this for a second. I'm not going to get into it too much, but isn't this nice? They spent all this money on this print for this rules for the 117th Congress. But is this not controlling your thoughts? If you've got to think, isn't that fascist? If you've got to literally use their language, is that not fascism? I mean, this thing, of course, is dense. I mean, of course, and it's excrement for me, but I will put the link in the stream for you guys if you want to look at this nonsense. It's full of platitudes and just, we know what's best. Shut up and do what we say. So I'm just going to put this here for you. Thought police, right on. And the problem is, I don't see this getting any better. I don't see it getting any better. All right. So I'm just going to open that up just a little bit, and then I'm going to thank everybody for coming in, and then we will get out of here. And so, of course, I mean, just even your table of content. They do a review of the 116th Congress. And of course, they're so inclusive. It says this is a 19 page spread or whatever, a brochure almost. Such a waste of money. This is what our money pays for, folks. We can only get $600, but they can print something like this. I can't prove that they printed it, but printing something like this is certainly not, you can print something like this. It's probably not going to be cheap because of the design of it all. So, restoring Congress, listening to the people's voice. Do you guys feel like they're listening to you? Returning to the regular order, strengthening oversight and ethics. We're ethical, right? Bolstering budget rules, fighting for inclusion and diversity. Looking back. See, there's more about looking back as far as I'm concerned. They're doing more looking back, but they're just not looking back far enough. Okay. So look back at the 116th Congress. And of course, eventually you'll probably get into the language and the blackface stuff that they do under the leadership of Chairman Maxine Waters. She created a new financial services diversity subcommittee. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. All right, so there you go. I think I put that out there for you. If I didn't, you can just, buzz me and I will put it there for you. All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap us up and put a hat on us or whatever, pack it in, fold it up and say so long for today. But first, hello, it's you stupid foo. Wow. It'd just be so much easier to complete that with the consonant on there, but I won't do it. It says restoring new world order. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And you stupid foo said new world order at its finest. But they just move the goalposts. Oh, yeah, it's a great reset. Oh, that's a lie. Oh, but the 4IRs, the fourth industrial revolution. It's all going down the same pipe, right? And Rachel says we just paid for gender education in the stimulus bill. Ay. Okay. So I'm going to read the last one down here, and I'm going to wrap us up here. All right, guys. So if you guys, I really appreciate it. If you have not had an opportunity, we have just a few minutes before we wrap up, and you have a few minutes to still consider feeding our AI around here. It's kind of like charity. Please donate to the charity of our of dissemination of information and just getting this going around here, keeping us going around here, sustainability here on Black Spring. All right, so thank you so much, Melinda Ann Burns, for all that you do and coming in. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for the engagement in the comments. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the commentary. And I usually try to get back to you guys ASAP, just juggling some extra things, but I'll get back to you as soon as possible. You stupid foo, thank you so much for coming in. That almost sounds Mr. T inspired. I'm not, and I don't mean to impugn anything. It's just it's fun and it works. Thank you so much. And Steve Willis, thank you so much for coming in. Rachel, thank you so much for coming in. And Melinda Ann Burns, I think I had you already. Angela Reed, thank you so much. And the definition says they are already ruling it by fiat. Right on to the definition of anarchy. Thank you so much for coming in. And Puget Sound Community Watch, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Steve Willis. If I've missed anybody, I'm pretty sure I won't miss anybody, but I'm going to make sure even if I double back on your name. Anarchy Television, thank you so much for coming in. R. Jones, thank you so much for coming in. Melinda Ann Burns. R. Jones, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for all that you do and for supporting the channel. AZ Infidel, thanks so much for all that you do and for supporting the channel. Anarchy Television. JT Waterman, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And Dr. Bombay made it in today. Thank you so much for coming in. And thanks so much once again to Derek C. Williams for sharing out the stream and all that you do to support the channel. Thank you so much. And it seems like I'm missing somebody here. Got Angela Reed. Okay. All right. It's fun. It's fun. It works. But yeah, so I'm going to wrap us up on this segment. And once again, thank you guys so much for coming in. And I don't know. We'll see what happens today. Like I said, who knows? It could be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, maybe a powder keg, or it could be unremarkable. And I don't know. We'll just see what happens. We'll have a developing day. And I guess it's safe to say, I kind of wanted to check and be sure that I had an update on the races. Does anybody have the numbers right now, or what percentage are they reporting, or that have they reported on the GA Senate races? Did they finally call that, or well, not the officials, but I'm showing it 98% reporting and not the media calling it, but are they still waiting? I think I kept hearing, oh, they were still counting. They're waiting for the mail-in ballots to come in so it can be overwhelming and undoubtedly and uncontested, right? All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream in the comment section, in a video, or a moonlight stream. And I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And I'm not saying that I won't come back, even if it's later. It'll be like much later. And I'll try to get you some level of consistency on the schedule, but it's looking a little wonky now. It might be for some time. So give you an update as it comes available. Thanks so much again, guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.